All right, we're going to have a look at Chapter 3, number 16, and this is we're going to talk about the debugger tool. It's a first introduction to the debugger, and basically what we use it for is for trying to find the logic flow of programs. Now, when I click on Start and I compile my program, it just runs, and if I type in a number here and I'm trying to figure out how this works, it's pretty much impossible unless in my head I can kind of figure, okay, declare variables, and I go through the step-by-step in my head and kind of figure it out. What the debugger does is helps us with this process in a step-by-step process. And here's how it works. This gray line right here allows us to start or flag a particular starting point of where we want the debugger to be executed. So that means that when I run the program and I click the button called accumulate, it will stop at this point as soon as I click on that and revert the control back to the code, and I can walk through it step by step. So now when I click on start and I click over here, I can run this program and it's not going to be in the debug. It'll only happen when I type in the accumulate button. So when I click on, I'm going to say here, let's put in a 12, and I'm going to click on accumulate. When I click on accumulate, I clicked on the accumulate button and it stopped the code. Now this area up here on the toolbar is our debugger navigation. So we've got one here for stepping into the code step line by line, and it's F11. So I'm going to use F11 in this example. When I press F11, it drops to the next available line of code that executes from the debugger. So it drops down. It ignores this. It means that it actually initialized accumulate and initialized number. So, and if I roll my mouse over these, look what happens. It actually pops up with a tooltip and says, by default, when I initialize a variable as a double, its value is 0. And this one should be the same. If I roll my mouse over number, sure enough, it's 0. Now, when I pushed F11, it dropped down to this line right here. Remember the way that it works. It always goes from the right to the left. So if you take a look at this first, it says what's inside here. It says that you typed in a 12, and if you remember, I typed in a 12 there. But it's in quotations. Quotations indicate it's in a string. So now we're going to parse that string into a double. So that means that currently we haven't actually gone to the next line. So this is currently still 0. But when I push F11 and drop to the next line, this statement has been executed. And that means that this 12 has been parsed into a double, and it's now 12. So what it's allowing me to do is look at every line of code and seeing where there's a problem or what's going wrong. So here's another one. You might remember the default value is 00. Okay, that's inside the label control. 0.00. It's right there. 0.00 is what's inside that text control. I'm going to take that and I'm going to parse it into a 0. So when I step down, this should be still a 0 because it's just 0 into a 0. But it's now a number, not a string. There's no quotations around it. This one here has quotations, meaning it's a string. So now that my number is 0 and my accumulator is 12, I can add what is 0 plus 12 will become number. So number now becomes 12. So it took 0 plus 12 and it put it back into here. But so now in the future, the variable number is always 12. And then finally, our number is 12, but it's a number. We can't output a number, especially a decimal, and we have to convert it to a string. And when we move over here, it just says that this is as a normal to decimal place, and it'll output the results. Currently, it's 0.00, but when I push the next line, it will output those results. Now, I can't see that result occurring until I stop the execution of the program. So at the top up here, it stops the debugger. And now I could rerun it again with or without the debugger. To turn the debugger off, I could click on this and it would stop that debugging from happening again. So if I recompile it, the program will run. If I type in a number, it works as normal. So that's the first introduction to looking at the debugger, and we're going to be using this a lot. So I'd encourage you to go through that exercise line by line, step by step, and this will really help you in locating errors, mostly logic errors in your program. All right, so we'll see you in the next video.